Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic Friday so far. Today, we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update and where to even begin. We had so much take place yesterday. There's a lot of takeaways from what happened yesterday, a lot of positives in regards to the cryptocurrency market and how I actually don't think it did as badly as it potentially should have, given the events that unfolded. Of course, yesterday was a very dark day for the world. At large, it was certainly a dark day for markets, and more importantly, it was a dark day for the people on both the Ukrainian and Russian side of this. And you can't be anything but sympathetic. I had a lot of people saying, how can you talk about markets during this time period? The world keeps turning, ladies and gentlemen, and anybody that isn't sympathetic to what took place yesterday, needs their head looking at. How can you be anything but? So in this video, we are going to kind of try and move away from all that, but it's so significant what's happening right now because it does a number of things. There's a number of things we've got to watch moving forwards. Now, I would actually argue that crypto really didn't hold up that badly yesterday, given everything that took place. In my opinion, we potentially should have seen more of a spill to the downside than we did, given what took place. Remember, the 2017 bear market had nowhere near the kind of catastrophic news that we got yesterday take place, and we sold off in that kind of a manner. Crypto actually held up relatively well. And there's something interesting taking place here. We see that Ukraine Bitcoin exchange volume spikes 200% as Russian war sparks currency concerns. Something extremely interesting taking place here, because has all of this just really highlighted the need for an alternative currency outside of the realms of governments around the world? I would actually argue that it potentially has. Now, I watch all markets, but I certainly watch the FX market is the kind of god of markets, if you will, given just how much volume. I mean, trillions slosh back and forth daily. And we actually saw the Russian ruble get hit extremely hard. So because of what their government has decided to do, the citizens get penalized. What you've got to remember is the Russian citizens use the ruble. It's largely used and accepted within Russia. And their currency got devalued on the world stage based on everything that happened. So the Russian citizens are getting really hit hard here. I would argue that, it's not long. Bitcoin has always been relevant and has never been so relevant, whether that be the Federal Reserve flooding the system with money and devaluing fiat systems across the world, or whether it be the events that are taking place today. People need a store of value. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but I do think it has proven itself as exactly that, a store of value over the long term. People say, okay, well, what about last year? Or what about, 2018? If you look at the long-term trend, it's been a brilliant store of value. Certainly when you look at the fact that the dollar has lost 99.8% of its value to it. So there is an awful lot going on, and we're trying to break all this down and kind of, sort through it all to try to see what kind of takes place. Yesterday was, even for myself as a hodler, it was a somewhat tough day. But really, when you understand the fact that the price yesterday was just reflected via fear and nothing else really, in regards to the fact that certainly crypto has never been so strong and in such a strong position. It's daily now. We're seeing adoption continue. We're seeing regulatory framework be built up around the world. Crypto's at a real pinnacle point right now where it's on that next stage of sort of mass adoption and going mainstream in terms of people not only holding it but using it. We're at this kind of weird crossroads right now, if you will, and it's doing quite well given everything that's taking place. This is DNY Mellon plans to launch digital asset custody platform later this year. I've been noticing a lot of the Q4 reports coming out for a lot of the likes of Coinbase and others, and they've all done very well. It's not going to be long until other Wall Street mainly want a piece of that action, and that comes with regulatory clarity that I think we're going to get. But this is, it's extremely interesting when you look at what's sort of taken place. The Ukrainian central bank suspends electronic cash transfers, bolstering the use case for crypto. Russian miners keep running, may see pivot to Bitcoin in response to sanctions. Ukrainian Bitcoin exchanges volume spikes 200% as Russia war sparks currencies concerns. How Russia could use crypto to evade international sanctions. Crypto is very much at the forefront of this. And if you understand what Bitcoin's trying to do, it was really designed to escape your kind of government's fiat systems, that they don't give you a choice really whether you can or, you have to use the fiat system within the country. Bitcoin gives you an alternative to that. And we're seeing this become more and more apparent. And this is everything that's taking place. Yes, in the short term, Nobody wants to see a spike like we saw yesterday in that kind of a day. But it's all just noise and volatility in the kind of grand scheme of things when you look at what's being achieved here. You know, yesterday was an extremely volatile day for Bitcoin. It was at a 13 plus nearly a 14% candle, and we've actually retraced a lot of that move, guys, which in my opinion is impressive given what took place. It's a real testimony to not just Bitcoin strength, but the cryptocurrency strength at large. We should have seen, or potentially should have seen, a lot more of a spill, but we didn't. We actually held relatively well. We're creating kind of a double bottom here, which is interesting. You can see we've got one similar thing played out over here. Are we going to see continuation off the back end of it? And that's ultimately what you guys know, I believe, is going to come. I think crypto is going to continue to grow. I don't think we're entering a multi-year bear market. I think we're just going through some turbulent times at the moment. There's explanations for all of it. And that real fact that crypto just is not correlated, or the fact that crypto is really correlated to what's taking place on sort of global economic and geopolitical, a global economic and geopolitical base is really, you know, what's driving this market. But the fundamentals do become realized. So if we look at the FTSE, FTSE's seen a huge uptick today, not quite where it was previously. You know, it was a bad day for the FTSE yesterday. Crypto's actually recovered more than the likes of the FTSE, given what happened yesterday, more than the likes of the Nasdaq, which actually did quite well on the end of yesterday. I think people are stepping in and trying to buy the dips here in ultimate expectation of continuation, because ultimately markets only really go one way typically, and the reason being it's kind of like house prices over the long term. Your money becomes less and less valuable. You know, we've got the Fed talking about tackling inflation and putting in various measures to do so. But I would certainly argue, how can they do all that now? You know, how can they really be tied on inflation and, you know, tackling it and upping interest rates, given everything that's taking place where the economy is already may see a bit of weakness? And another interesting thing to come out of the kind of Russia situation is Russia, of course, supply. A lot of Europe is actually quite dependent on Russia for the likes of gas. Now, anybody in Europe, the UK, the world at large, really, unless of course you're in places like China, would have noticed a huge increase in energy bills as it is, whether that be petrol, whether that be particularly gas and electricity in the UK. I know people whose electricity bills have doubled. How does that then play into, you know, how does Russia and people not doing business with them in terms of buying their natural resources now play into the sort of supply crunch that we've seen with natural resources? You know, we're seeing a huge price increase. Does the price continue to increase, and does that push the economy into further downturn, which historically it does typically do? Certainly when you think about the fact that people's wages certainly haven't accommodated that growth. You know, there's so much to look at here, and that's what we're trying to do. But in regards to crypto, the reason I could hold for a day like yesterday, and yes, it was somewhat a painful day, one of them days where you just don't want to look at the charts, is because I understand what's taking place here. And yes, it's a horrific thing that's taking place. At any time, money is important, but there are absolutely things that are more valuable and precious than it. Family, friends, health, and so on. And when those things that are more important than money get taken away from people, and they do exist, it's a very sad day. And that's the harsh reality for what's taking place over there. You know, there's already, you know, it's not great, but it's contained at the moment. It's what the fallout of it all is, because there is still the argument, okay, well, this could escalate and get worse. It could, but it also may not. And, you know, you're kind of trying to second guess geopolitical events here, which is why it's always good to sort of fall back on the fundamentals of what you've invested in and have done your due diligence before investing, because it will make times like yesterday a lot more smoother. So altcoins are really just following. We're seeing a kind of uptick from them as well. Quite a strong one. Like I say, crypto's largely recovered better than the likes of the FTSE and a number of stocks out there, which is huge. I mean, it's a huge testimony. It shows a real confidence behind it, even given geopolitical events. Yes, we are naturally going to sell off in that kind of a situation, but just the recovery that it's kind of made is impressive to me, to be quite honest with you. And like I say, it really, you know, this whole situation really almost gives the green light and overemphasizes now the need for a currency that is external from, you know, any one government, because the poor people of Russia, essentially, who haven't decided really that they, you know, there was never a vote that they were given to decide whether they did want to do this or they didn't. But they really don't have a choice in the fact that their currency got massively devalued yesterday on the back end of everything. I mean, their currency is now down 16% over, a short period of time, over sort of 20 days, 30 days, sorry. Now, that is without taking into account inflation. That's without it taking into account everything else. But in the global stage, their currency got hit really hard. And it kind of pushes, I think, people into Bitcoin. Got more regulatory framework coming. First mover Asia. India crypto firm regulators continue their regulatory debate. Bitcoin recovers from a post-invasion freefall. It wasn't even really that much of a freefall because I've seen a lot worse spills than yesterday for Bitcoin and crypto at large. And given what that spill was caused from, you'd have expected it to be a little bit more severe, and it just simply wasn't. So, and again, we've got more companies looking to offer custodial services. So really, I'm going to love and leave you on that, guys. There's a lot to address. We're going to be doing a lot of thinking over the coming days, looking at things. I'm still in crypto. I'm still all in crypto. Reason being is because I believe in what's taking place here. All I have for you in this one, guys, I'm going to love and leave you on that note. If you've enjoyed the content, like is always appreciated. So is a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching.